Hey all, so the other day I picked up this little mystery board here, up from a surplus store near me. Um, Not too far from me, there's a lot of electronics manufacturing, like Tektronix and Intel are both based out of generally my area, along with a bunch of smaller places that have cropped up around them. So you can find some pretty interesting stuff at surplus. I've actually found a few Intel Confidential chips and testing motherboards they use that I didn't pick up, but um, yeah, I got this little board here for $1 because it looks to me to be a PC. We've got what I assume to be DDR3 SODIMM, very PC-esque I/O. In this cooler design, this sort of flower style here. It's very ubiquitous among those little ASRock Intel Atom and low-end Celeron boards. The only issue with it is that little plug. I have power adapters for it, but there's no standard layout for this plug. You don't know which of these is ground or what have you. And you also don't know what voltage it is because there's no case. I actually tried looking this up, but I found absolutely nothing. Nothing from this or any of the numbers on the little stickers. That's obviously not going to give you anything. That's just like a little classification. They had quite a few of these, this board lying around. So what I'm wondering is if this was potentially like some customer ordered these and these were overstock, or who knows. It honestly looks like a NAS board to me because you have 5 SATA ports here, and then what I'm gonna assume is SATA power. I guess internal USB for booting off of, and then external I/O for whatever you need. 2 Ethernet ports, which is sort of nice. But I'm going to go ahead and try and figure out what polarity and voltage this has. So the first thing we can look at here, I don't know how well you can see that, but the top 2 pins, the bottom 2 pins are tied together along their plane in the PCB. So I'm not sure which orientation these are, whether these would be the top or bottom and vice versa for for these other 2 down here, but can pretty confidently say that these 2 will have the same function and these 2 will have the same function. And to actually test that, I'll go ahead, take my multimeter and set it to continuity mode. So that way, when a circuit's completed, we get a little beep. Then what I'll do, this is maybe not the most elegant solution, but I have a little piece of solder here. Now, I'm not soldering anything today. No, what I'm doing is I'll just stick that in one of the holes and go ahead. So we know that the shield of the VGA port should be grounded. It's possible that it won't be, but on just about everything, it will be, and it's part of the spec, so it should be grounded. So then the bottom 2, and so we can hear that this bottom right pin is ground. and so is the bottom left pin. We can even check the sleeve. The sleeve is almost always grounded, but we can check for good measure, and sure enough, it's also grounded. So now what we can do, we can see which of these pins actually align. Now, if we just take a look here and use our brains, we can see that these two here are on this large swath, which is also connected to the VGA, the grounded portion here. But we can just check either way. Stick that in the lower pin and test, and sure enough, and if we really want to make extra sure, we can try it again with the positive pins. Oop. I heard it for a moment there. Yeah, there it goes. And then again, we can see that they're both tied. They're both going to be carrying the same voltage as far as we can see, but just for sanity check, we'll actually confirm that. And yeah, I'm probably just not making good contact on the inner portion, but you heard it beep. Yeah, there it goes again. So now we know what our positive and negatives are. Okay, so now that we know the polarity of our plug here, I'm just going to try one of my power adapters. Here's a rather nice FSP group one. It's of the same polarity as, can you focus here? Yes, you can see it's got the same, has the same pinout as what we found our board to have. And it's 12 volts, which, if I'm being frank, I can't imagine that this would run on anything less than 12 volts. Very few things I find these days take, especially of, you know, a desktop design, to take anything less than 12 volts. I mean, what, most laptops now use about 20 volts, I think. There's no obvious LEDs anywhere, so how are we going to know that it's on? Well, every Ethernet port has two LEDs, and by plugging in a cable to some expendable hub that we don't care about, we can see if it's communicating. Because even if the computer's off, then the light, the activity light, will still shine. So I'm just going to give this a go. It's probably not right, but we'll see what happens. So I've plugged it in. And yep, look at that, the little light's going. I've heard nothing catastrophic from it, so I'll take that as a success. Now, for the next step, I'll just plug in a stick of RAM and see if we get any output to the monitor. Let's see, that's not the nicest RAM slot I've ever used, but can't expect too much for $1. So I'll just plug everything in. Oh, and look, you can see both activity lights are on now, so it's actually booting, presumably. We'll turn our monitor on. Oh, and look, reboot or select proper boot device. Alright. Now I'm going to plug in a USB keyboard because I want to see if we can access the BIOS of this. I've come back with a very crummy keyboard, but it'll do, and you can see the numlock light is on, so it's all connected nicely. So I'll just unplug the power supply and plug it back in to reboot it, since there aren't any power buttons on this. Oop, press delete or F2 to enter setup. There we go. Hey, look at that. Intel reference code version. I wonder what that means. I wonder if this is some kind of development board, because I've never seen this like compliancy project version build date and time on a American Megatrends BIOS before. And what's this Aptio setup utility? I'm curious to find out what this has. Let's see. Launch PXE Flash BIOS utility. That's nice. RTC wake settings. CPU configure. Okay, so we've got a Intel Atom of some sort. 2.1 gigahertz. Dual core with hyperthreading. SATA configuration. So that's just telling us none of these SATA ports are populated. Info report, post report. Wonder what that does. Delay time. Have to reboot that and try that. Serial port console redirection. I wonder if this is for, I wonder if this is for serial debugging. I may have ended up with something far more interesting than I bargained for here. Yeah, because here's a hardware monitor of some sort. Oh, that's interesting. Look, you can actually watch the voltages in real time. What date and time does it think it is? Well, it's actually kept it remarkably well. Restore AC power loss. Just go ahead, do power on. Host bridge. Yes, that's just the 4 gigabytes I've installed here. Quiet boot. So, no, we'll leave that off for now. And that's just our boot order. That's just typical stuff. And then launch EFI shell from file system device. I'm actually going to go and look up what all of this means and see if there's anything interesting to be had here. Alright, so, well, the fact that it does say RC and have all of these odd numbers and things would sort of make me like to believe this is a release candidate or something. I don't think so. This Cedar View codename was released in 2011, and the build date was, you can see here, 2013. So that's 2 years after the fact. And also this Aptio thing, that's just the name of this BIOS setup. Usually just gets branded over by whatever OEM. So I don't think this was any sort of prototype or release candidate or validation sample. I think it's just probably, like I theorized earlier, a just overstock of some project. But I still want to see what this summary screen is. Wonder if, is there like a help button? No. Oh well. Let's save changes and reset. I see. So that's just telling us what the system is, and we can also see we have an Intel Atom D2701. And then we just get the boot prompt. Alright, let's put Linux on it. Alright, now we know that this little computer isn't anything too exciting. No release candidates or validation or engineering samples or prototypes or anything, but it's still neat. And I'm going to install Linux on it. Specifically Slackware, because someone asked me nicely. So I got my Ventoy drive. I'll just plug that in. Here, I'll show you. So, you may recall we've got these SATA ports and what I'm assuming to be SATA power, because, wait a minute, hold on, brainwave. I have a ASRock N100 ITX, and it also does not run off an internal ATX power supply. It uses an external supply, much like this board. So it has little breakaways for these, and I wonder if they're the same pinout. No, they are not. Oh well, it was worth a check. I need to figure out something to do with that board. I bought it without really having any plans, and I'm sort of feeling bad now. So, if anyone has any ideas for what I should do with that, don't hesitate to let me know. But anyway, as I've just proven, well, I guess I haven't yet. I haven't proven that it's infeasible to run a hard drive with these. But the issue I'm facing currently is that when probing this with a multimeter, I've been able to find both of the ground pins on each of these. I've been able to find the 3.3 volt pin, but I haven't found the 5 or 12 volt pin. Now, I'm not sure if there's some sort of activation, like if I need to tie the 3.3 volt to ground or anything like that to make the 5 and 12 volt pins light up, or what, but I don't want to futz with it right now. So I'm just using a little thumb drive, USB 3, it'll be fine. And then I've also got a Ventoid drive. You know, it occurs to me that the USB 3 drive I'm using for the actual install is a Windows 10 IoT LTSC install. So I'd be curious. Well, I wonder if it'll decide to boot up into that instead. And then, just for shits and giggles, I'll plug the keyboard, into the internal USB header. Is that going in okay? Yeah, I just need a little pressure on that. And then we'll plug power in. Then my monitor went to sleep. Wake up. Oh, here it comes. It's alive. Let's see, I'm entering setup. At least I am theoretically. There we go. Boot. I'm not sure if it isn't seeing the other drive, but I guess we'll find out once we get there, because it's gonna boot to the Ventoid drive. Yeah, there we go. Wow, that's... Whoa, the monitor's having a moment right there. Oh gosh. Slackware. Hey, and it's detecting all 4 threads. Enter 1 to select a keyboard map. Alright, I'll just hit enter then. Welcome to Slackware. Alright, so the first step in installing Slackware, it's a very old school distro, so it doesn't do shit for you. So we gotta partition the drive ourselves. Okay, I'm back because I had to watch a tutorial on how to do that, but it's nothing all that interesting. You can see I've got 500 megabyte CFI system, 2 gigs of swap, which I think just about doubles. No, 1.5s are our total amount of RAM, but you know, whatever. I've got the storage for it. I don't really think this thing needs all that much RAM anyway, because you know, I looked up the installation docs on this, and it was like, do you have a 486? Yes, man, I have a 486. At least. This is at least a 486. And then all of the rest is just Linux file system. So, make swap. There was some command it mentioned up at initial boot to make one of these partitions swap. Make swap. Nowhere to set swap on. Dev-sda 2, since that's our swap partition. Alright. That seems to have gone well enough. So now we'll just enter setup. Well, key map. Oh, we could have set up swap from here, but set up your target partitions. Done adding partitions. Select source media. Install from a Slackware USB stick. And this is the Slackware USB stick. Oh. I wonder if we can fill up this screen like this. Oh, look at that. Bye. I think it's probably not meant to scan itself. That's the issue we're running into here. Select categories, all of it. Games. Wonder what that entails. Oh look, we've got text on here. Lifts. Okay. Cool. I'm just gonna install. Okay, it didn't like that. Okay, so we'll just, it sees our Linux. Alright, I'll go down, select our target, and it already sees the drive we want to use, so we'll just select that. Format it. ext4, that's what we'll ultimately want, but I'm just curious. What else? Yeah, that'll work. I wonder what the flash-friendly format it mentioned there was. Sure, ext4 will work fine, but I'm curious. I'll go ahead and hit OK. Yes. Partition type FAT or NTFS. Yeah, go ahead and do that. And then we'll just go ahead and continue. Alright, then I'll go ahead and select USB stick. Yes, it's in the port. We're booted on it right now. Well, I stopped filming there momentarily because, as you saw, it wasn't detecting the Slackware USB stick, and I was expecting to have to go and do a lot more research, but I just selected boot from CD, or no, rather I selected that the Slackware install files were on CD, and that worked out okay. maybe it's something funky with how Ventoy works, but I'll go ahead and install all of these. This is funny, I'm just reading through these here. I like the fact they have menu, choose individual packages, and then expert. This is the same as menu, but I'll go ahead and do full. What else is here? Use verbose prompting. The X series takes 1 year. But I'll just install full, because I have read up a little bit on Slackware, and sort of its shtick is that the package manager lacks any sort of dependency resolution, and their solution to that is to just install all of the dependencies and software you ever want from the get-go. So rather than, a lot of it is more so just activating software that you already had installed rather than installing software. So if you wanted to set up a web server, what you do with Slackware is you just turn on the web server that you already had installed on your system, rather than going sudo apt install update, sudo apt install Apache web server or Apache 2. I do really like that it actually gives you descriptions of all of what it's installing. It's quite entertaining to read through all of them and, you know, spot ones. Like, I just saw Lilo go by. One of the package managers or package management tools just went by. System VTAR. It's 1:30 and I really should be going to bed, but after a bit out over an hour, it's changed. It says generating initial RAM disk. Wow, that is an old kernel. Which makes sense since the last full release of Slackware was about 3 years ago at this point, I think. So we'll have to update it, but... Oh, here it comes. Please wait. So it's all installed. Now I just gotta wait for it to configure everything. Okay, so I've gotten to this point and I'm a little confused. It's recommending I make a USB Linux boot stick, but the entire install I've done was on a USB stick, so I think I'm just gonna skip it and I'll just go to elilo. Install boot menu. Why the fuck not? Cool, thank you. Yes, go ahead. No, not currently. Yeah, this all seems fine. Ooh, Samba. Yep, that all seems fine. No, I don't need screen fonts. And then US Pacific. And then I'll go ahead and use Vim. Cholesterol-free desktop environment. My favorite. Okay. Okay. Cholesterol-free. I feel like at this point, the Slackware team has sort of stopped taking their OS so seriously. Like, you know, they have less people to impress, I guess, like Debian, where everything's got to be real strict so there's no confusion about the cholesterol-free desktop environment. CFDE, my favorite. But I enjoy it, it's fun. Let's see, what do I want? I wish there was JWM here. I do quite enjoy JWM. I'll try Window Maker. I've used it before. Yeah, I'll go ahead and set the password. Cool. And okay, I'll reboot. Remove the installation disk. Yeah, go ahead, reboot. We'll see if everything's installed successfully. What? Huh? What the devil is this? I just installed Slackware, did I not? Like, I formatted the drive. There shouldn't be anything left on it. How did Windows slip through? Guess I should have installed regular Lilo. Guess that's a problem for tomorrow me. Alright, well I finally got it installed and it wasn't even the issue that I thought it was. This thing, as it turns out, supports EFI boot just fine. Windows just bloody... Oh, it's loading Linux now. Okay, I'm fine with that. But Windows somehow managed to persist through partitioning the hard drive. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I left my little camera mount somewhere today, so you guys get crummy camera work today. But after about 5 tries and many, many hours of effort, I have not once been able to install Slackware on this machine. I've been able to install it on a virtual machine, so I know I'm not an idiot, but it's had missing drivers. For whatever reason, the installer is different between different times I've installed it. So like, I installed it using the same ISO, that is. So I'll install it on, you know, a virtual machine, and that'll go fine, but it gives me a different version of CF disk than if I just install it on bare hardware. Then somehow it managed to fuck itself up such that the USB stick I was installing it on would be recognized on this computer, but then not any other computer. And then just to check that I wasn't crazy, I tried it on my framework, which is an exceptionally normal computer. I mean, this is a very normal computer also. I'll tell you more about that, what I found out about it, in just a bit. But still, there were missing drivers. Like, they say it comes with everything but the kitchen sink, but if you're missing drivers for what's very standard hardware, like Debian boots on this just fine, I can't imagine that Debian gets access to drivers that Slackware wouldn't, for whatever reason. Like, I tried installing, I even imaged the working install from the virtual machine onto a USB stick and plugged that in, but even that wouldn't play ball. Is this monitor on? No. Plug that in real quick. But perhaps the worst part of it is it's a gargantuan install, like 15 gigabytes. So anytime something does go wrong and you have to reinstall all over again, it takes bloody forever to do so. Frankly, I understand why it's so big, but I don't see why they can't provide any dependency resolution. I can understand leaving it off by default, but I don't know. So here's Debian booting, just to prove this is a perfectly normal functioning board. Though there is one good thing I got out of this little Slackware ordeal, which is one of the kernel panics actually revealed the name of this motherboard, or I'm not sure what the official term is, but it mentioned Lacey Big 5 NAS Pro, which is, well, what this came from, and it's exactly what I suspected it to be. It's a little NAS box that you just plug into your network and is supposedly plug and play. And I actually looked into it. Lacey happens to be from Hillsboro. Where was the surplus shop I got this from? Hillsboro, Oregon. So, yeah, I suspect this was just some overstock or something that they were clearing out. You can see Debian isn't particularly fast on this machine. In fact, has it hung? Nope. There it goes. But, you know, I will take an operating system that works slowly over an operating system that doesn't work at all pretty much any day of the week. Once this comes online... Oh, there's no batteries in my mouse. That's one. There's two. You want to come out for me? Actually... You know what? Maybe this will just work. Ah, there we go. Works just fine. Oh, let me... There we go. Maybe do you want to load? I swear it loaded quicker. There it goes. Yeah. As you can see, I've installed LXQT, or yeah, LXQT, I believe that's what it's called. Yeah. Here, I'll open up Firefox for us real quick. We can look up this Lacey Big 5 NAS Pro. You can actually feel the processor getting warm, and especially the chipset. I just want to check. I do have internet here. And you can see the lights blinking away, but nothing's happening. I'm beginning to think maybe there is actually some sort of issue with this thing connecting. I don't know. Well, I'll pop up some pictures anyway. But, you know, works well enough. Do you have any games? Unfortunately, no. What's that? What's this cute? Oh, it's just graphical HTOP. Pretty much, you know. I'm sure that's gross oversimplification. Alright. Well, that's all for today. We've figured out how to make this little thing work. That is surprisingly cool still, actually. Have no problem just resting my hand here. We've learned that I have some opinions now about Slackware, and we've gotten an operating system to boot on this thing. Sure, we'll see many more things to come with this, hopefully. Maybe actually get... Holy cow, what a change in brightness. I had it locked on a brightness appropriate for the screen, but maybe actually try and figure out the pinout of these along here. And hook up a SATA SSD or something. Give it an actual shot at being a computer. Cool. Well, I'll see y'all next time. Alright. So, I just had to reconfigure the name resolution on this, and you can see it's not fast, but it browses the web fine. And that's what this would have come out of. Once it opens here, there's an earlier revision. Oh, bye. There's an earlier revision of the board that was based on some sort of ARM CPU. Not a revision, but just an earlier model. But you can see there, you've got USB 2, USB 3, 2 Ethernets, VGA, and that funky power port. Just like what we have down here. And if I can find it again, I found an image. They all appear to be images of the earlier ARM version, but there is an image out there of this x86 version. Here we go, small net builder, I think that's it. Yep, there it is. And you can see that short of like this capacitor here, I believe that's a capacitor, I'm not the best at it, is a different color, and there's some other very minor differences, but everything else is the same for all intents and purposes. So yeah, it's nothing special, just overstock, I assume. It's all stuff that would just be different suppliers or something, but still neat nonetheless. It's a neat little board.